bubbles getting together and creating a big region of bubbles that were like half of the solids. And then Pedro tried to say to implement when a bubble, before it gets the medium again, before the gas turns to medium, I will try to make the border of the gas material again. So it would be like if the gas tried to expand the material and some border stays. So, but it didn't went well. It didn't go well. So I don't know English. Very hard.
So you're not screen sharing, I don't think.
Yeah. What I'm going to say is whiteboard. Oh, nice. Before, what I had was, are you seeing the, maybe now, yes. Before, I had a bubble, and the bubble grows up, and then another bubble starts here and starts to grow.
At the
And then
moment, we don't see anything.
The whiteboard vanished. It came up for a second. Now it's gone.
Okay, I'll try to do it again. Maybe I'll do it like this and this. Now you see it? Okay. Yes.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. What I had before was a bubble starts to grow and it becomes something like this. Then another one tries to grow and becomes something like this. But when they started to have more neighbor bubbles, they just became a big bubble with no material inside, and then it's kind of lose the meaning of having bubbles. I was having medium materials inside the solid, you know, like big regions. Then Pedro tried to say to me, okay, when a bubble grows up, then try to change its borders before it disappears to solid again. So it will try to keep some material, like pushing the solid when it grows up. Then something remains here. Then it will be something more familiar with the reality. But I tried to implement it and I couldn't. I tried to use the neighbor tracker, boundary pixel tracker plugin, but when I find the pixels, I try to change it from one material to another, and everything just changes. I couldn't do like change.
This approach won't work.
Yeah, I believe so. But then
it's simple. Each bubble you create is a different bubble. Just give it a different ID. And I understand you're in an open cell foam, and this will be simulating a closed cell foam, but get the closed cell foam to work first. Okay. Don't change the bubbles to medium. Leave them as what they are. Each time you create a bubble, it's a different ID, and leave it.
Okay, I'll try it.
Now, I'm happy to work with you later about how you can do what you want to do, but it's going to be quite demanding, and fundamentally, I think you may find that if you try to do that, CompuCell is not the way you should do it.
I believe so.
The level of complexity of the simulation you're asking for, if you want to do it the way you're talking about it, is a supercomputer at Sandia National Labs running a solids package.
Yeah. So also, I would like to add that. Okay, say it.
If you want to try to do it in CompuCell, which I think is interesting, the bubbly liquid is definitely possible. And so if you can get that to work and it has the properties you want, then you can begin to think about making the material more solid-like. But I think, but if you think about what you're trying to do, if you have two bubbles, domains, bubbles, and you now make them the same cell type, then it's one bubble. So they will immediately turn into a circle. They won't stay as two compact objects. So you're at it, the simulation is doing what you're asking it to do.
Yes.
Now the idea of creating a surface is okay, except you have that you can't freeze the surface because it has to be able to move. And if you don't want the surface to be frozen and you want to be solid-like, then you have to create material particles and then combine them with links. And so then the scale of the bubbles, the scale over which you have to work is going to be much finer. You're going to have the individual voxels will have to be much smaller compared to the size of the domains than you have now.
Yes, I believe so.
And I can show you how to do that. I think that it could be very interesting to do it. But I think it's going to wind up being quite an expensive computation, because Gilberto showed me something that you did, that he said you did with the bubbly liquid.
Yes.
Maybe we should show that to everybody, because that was very nice, I thought.
Yeah, what I have here, I run this older simulation from a cloud computer, but I have the video here, and I'll try to share just the results of what has been done. And it is like something. Yeah, let me just find it before. I don't know where it is, but it is a video made of a CompuCell simulation, and it's kind of interesting what has been done. Okay, now I found it. This was made by Gilberto and other professors and collaborators, like in 2016 or something like that. It's an old program. It kind of works, you know. This is the cell, the solid growing with bubbles. And resolidificating.
Okay, so what maybe you should start with that and see what you can do with that.
Yeah, I was trying to do that, but before the workshop, I had no clue where to begin to start understanding what was going on the program, and I will try to do it after the workshop. And for now, I was trying to like create a model from zero to see the problems of that I would face, and maybe see what has already been done before, after. It's not like doing the same job, but learning important things to think when I will be using or trying to use this older program. You know, I don't know if I was very clear. I hope I was clear. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna try to face some more problems and do with different ways and show the results after.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Julia. So let's go to the Turing group next. If you could give us a very quick, like 3-minute check-in of where your model is.
Yeah,
And then
Hello.
we can, any help you need, we can help you in the breakout room after check-ins.
Okay, let me show the screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
So, as we have talked about, the idea was to start from the Snackenberg equations and trying to do that with agent-based modeling and having the cells do the reaction to the chemicals. So the cells detect the chemicals, they uptake some amount from the chemical fields, and they adjust their secretion behavior according to what they can measure. And if we had that correctly, we could give rise to patterns with something that is quite similar to the Snackenberg equations. So we managed to get some patterning, and let me just do the first step of the simulation. So in the first step, every cell, I can show you the code, secretes. We put that as a random initial condition. We put it to be the same for every cell. So we are starting with something completely uniform among the cell field. So in the very first step, they secrete 0.5 of each chemical, and every cell does this. And if I click play, we can see that even though we are starting from something completely uniform, patterns begin to emerge quite quickly, so very early on. And with this set of parameters, which have been giving patterns in the Ross-Stackenberg equations, despite this system being a little different because we are using the cells, and this does not happen in every point in our domain, and we have the cells do that. Despite the differences, the same set of parameters in the equations do give rise to patterns. And that's very interesting because we did something as similar as we could to the Snackenberg, but it is a different system. And it is very interesting that despite starting from something completely uniform, the equations give rise to patterns even if we don't randomize the initial conditions. So what we are seeing now is that we have a certain region where we see the pattern formation. We believe that when we try to perhaps get the cells closer to the edges and having boundary conditions so that the cells here communicate with this area, we might get patterning in the whole domain. We are yet to try it. So these patterns are stable. We want to also, we have tried some different sets of parameters for the reaction mechanisms of the cells. And of course, as we wanted to see, there are some sets of parameters which break the stability of the system, and we destroy the pattern formation. And there are some other parameters which also give rise to patterns. It's interesting that we saw patterns with parameters that are not supposed to give patterns in the Snackenberg equations. So in this system, despite those sets of parameters not giving rise to patterns in the raw Snackenberg equations, we saw patterns being stable here. So having done this, we're trying to move in a similar direction, but in a much more complex system to try and do some digit formation. So I would refer you to Melanie for the rest. Thank you. I'm almost stop my screen share.
Yeah, actually, we should probably move on to the next group because I do want to give people more time. What help do you
I'm
need for
sorry.
the rest of the day?
We're not sure yet because we are currently trying to set our code for the digit formation and do some debugging. So we are slowly moving forward. We don't have something specific that we need as of now, but we might need it.
Okay, well, we'll check in.
Nice.
I have a
Sure.
question,
Mhm.
actually. I was playing around the demo codes, James, that provided us for the other kind of reaction diffusion systems, such as Geiger-Maynard and other kind of reactions. But I am not so sure if something is important. Maybe in the breakout room, we can take a look at the existing demo, because I feel like there's something I don't feel comfortable about it. So I want to share it with you later.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank
I'm
you.
happy to take a look. No, absolutely.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. This is looking good so far. So next, let's check in with Diego from the ECM group.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, so today I was able to work with Gilberto at first to fix get the better parameters for the adhesion flex. Should I share screen for that? So here's the simulation. But yeah, I was working on getting better parameters for the adhesion flex so that we have the mesenchymal cells moving towards the right side of the simulation space, and then the epithelial cells, which are the ones in red, stay together. And then I was also able to get help on having so the adhesion flex, or the molecule density of the molecule that allows the mesenchymal cells to move, that is determined by the ECM density field. So as the cells are moving towards the right, they're getting more molecules so that they interact more with the cells. And currently the model is like a 2D. So for example, here, or 2.5D, sorry. So we have here the ECM cells, which is the first layer, and then the top layer is the actual cells. And so, yeah, so they're moving towards the right, or they're just spreading out by interacting with the ECM cells. And then after that, I was getting help from Joel to allow the cells to move towards a certain direction, or based on like alignment, because ECM is also aligned. So that's why we also had a ECM alignment field, which should be somewhere here. I'm not sure why it's not. Okay, it was working earlier. I'm not sure why it's not working now. But oh wait, sorry, it's because of this. Yeah, so they're supposed to be getting, yeah, so here, so yeah, so as they're moving towards the right, you can see that the ones more towards the right have a greater molecular density, which allows them to interact more with this ECM cells. And then the ones on the inner or more towards the center have less molecules. Then next step was to work on in a field. It was supposed to be a vector field now. At first we had a scalar, or is like a chemical field, or I guess it was a scalar field, but now it's a vector field that I'm working to implement so that the cells can a vector is associated with each cell, and then as the cells interact with the ECM cells, they can, based on the vector associated with the ECM cells, the epithelial cells, or mesenchymal cells, sorry, are able to move in a certain direction. And then, yeah, so that's what I'm working to implement next. And then I'm also gonna record data so that I can have some metrics to show. So I'll be recording like the cells, X and Y coordinates, and then I'm also just saving this just in case I want to use it later. But yeah, that's what I have for now.
All right, good. Any specific questions or needs that we can help you address in your breakout room after we're done?
Not for right now. I think I'll just work to implement this, and then if I need some more help, then I can reach out. That's fine.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Diego. The liver group.
So we've been working on comparing the model Morpheus and CC3D. So Shalai is working on the CC3D to import like the acetaminophen metabolism into hepatocyte cells, and basically working on that together. And we already have the simulations in Morpheus done. So so these are kind of the behavior that we look forward to get from CC3D as well, for example. And something like this, that this is a scenario when the acetaminophen concentration is too high, that like all the cells become necrotic, and the macrophages and cases are eating them out, or like a couple other scenarios where we have different concentrations, and like with the focus on therapeutic methods. For example, here the therapy with NAC, where it helps remove the necrotic and senescent cells without like the full damage, without having the acute liver injury, and a couple other scenarios, basically playing with the threshold of the different fields that we have there. And yeah, and I guess, Shalai, do you want to like share what you have so far on CC3D?
Oh yeah. I showed earlier about, wait, give me a second. So already set up the base cell fields and trying to include the metabolism in the model. And we have gotten the initial states. Working as a hexagonal lever lobule. Yeah, that's it so far.
All right, well, that looks good. I think James is following up a little bit in the chat. In the meantime, I think we'll move on in the interest of time to Cesar, how's your stuff going? Okay, we'll loop back around to Cesar. Marcella with the Immune Response Project.
Joel helped me a lot earlier to get cytokine secretion from M1s and M2s in, and I can share that really quick. And so I have cell M1 and M2s just in a lattice, and they're secreting pro and anti-inflammatory cytokines at the boundary, and then based on the amount seen by the other cells, it's causing them to do a phenotypic switch. And in doing this very simple start, I realized, I set all the parameters the same production of pro and anti-inflammatory cytokine, the same conditions to switch. And I noticed how important the initial positioning of the cells was in determining the population distribution at the end, whether it was mostly M1 or M2. And then that tells me that we talked about doing some different initializations of the cells, but maybe that means that it's really important that I add undifferentiated macrophages to the model, so that if I were going to model some sort of inflammatory signal, if it was local, that's going to be important. Yeah, I'm just thinking that undifferentiated macrophages and actually including that transition is going to be important in this setting. So I think I'm going to add that. And I think I'm going to add, instead of just having the cells transition based on if they see a certain amount of pro or anti-inflammatory cytokine, I need to add actual activation functions and inhibition functions in there to make it more realistic. So that's going to be another thing I'm going to do. And I haven't even gotten to the neutrophils and, and the actual inflammatory signal yet. But I do have a couple questions about that. When I add the inflammatory stimulus, what the best initial way to go about that is, like the simplest way. Should I just assume that there's like a constant inflammatory signal just distributed everywhere? How would I do that?
Yeah, I'd say that that's a good place to start. Why don't I immediately after are you going to be available for the next half hour?
I might. I have my parents are coming to pick up the grandkids, and so I might not be. I don't know what's.
Because I'd like to, I haven't had a chance to talk to you, and so I was hoping we could spend a little time looking at it together.
That would be great.
Yeah, so in that case, Goldsmith, I know you had a question for James, but James, if you could talk to Marcella next, and then we'll loop back around to address this issue with the demos. We do very quickly, Sharon, if you want to give us a quick
no,
2-minute.
At the moment, or the breakout in the breakout room.
Sorry?
Now at the moment or in the breakout room?
In the breakout rooms.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Me?
Yes, Sharon.
Okay. So as I said this morning, I've been trying to get the adhesion flex to do what I want it to do. And I had sorting, but I wanted to now work on getting sort of individual cells moving around as whole single-celled organisms and interacting. And I mentioned that I thought I might need to have a molecule that is attractive and a molecule that's repulsive in order to get what I want. So I ended up with two strategies. So Pedro joined us in the breakout room right at the beginning after this morning's check-in. And he came up with a scheme that is pretty interesting, and I would like to show it to you. So let me tell you first. I told him that what I had been trying to do is have cells moving around and independently, not sticking to anything, and I define two types, a predator and a prey, and the predator is larger. And that when the predator detects that it's near prey, it should start to try to adhere to the prey cells. And I should say this isn't the long-term thing I'm going for. Like ultimately, I don't want to be designing strategies for the cells to use. I want evolution to find them. But this is like, can I build something that will be evolvable, something that just some kind of strategy that works. So let's see here. You see Twedit?
Yep, looks good.
And I might even already have this loaded. I think it's ready to go. So this is, well, okay. So his strategy was here's the setup, and we have two molecules, ignore the names because they're not appropriate names for what those are, but he has two molecules that they're kind of like, think of delta and notch. They attract each other, except now imagine that delta actively repels delta and notch actively repels notch. So it's adhesive in a heterotypic interaction and repulsive in a homotypic interaction. And the idea is that oh, and the other thing is that the prey only has one of those molecules and the predator has both of them. And so what you get is that things balance out such that all the cells repel their own type, but when they come together, the predator will try to engulf. And I don't have any directed motion or anything like that in here. I just put the cells in and let them diffuse, but it happens pretty fast. And you can see already that red one is wrapped around the yellow one. We didn't try to perfect the numbers exactly to get it to engulf it entirely, but you can see that everything's sticking to it. And of course, you end up with a pattern where other red cells will now find those yellow cells that the red one already is touching. So you end up with the big, the swarm all descending. So you get a pretty interesting pattern there. There's a couple things about this though that I am not 100% comfortable with. One is that it is not very intuitive to understand what the two molecules do. I mean, I understand how they work right here. And the molecules they're kind of multifunctional, which I would rather not have. I would rather have molecules that I sort of know what they're meant to do specifically, one job. And also this unfolds entirely as a result of the physics. And I wanted to have sort of a strategy where in the Python, the cells could like detect something and make a change in order to make something happen. So this other, what I have come up with, which I think is over here. So now the names are meaningful, CAM and repel. I have two molecules. One is meant to just be cell adhesion, and the other one is just meant to be repulsion. And repulsion is designed to be somewhat general, so all the cells have it, and it just repels all the time, and I hopefully doesn't have to modify that at all. But the cell adhesion molecule starts, so I have oh, 1. I wonder if that's why it wasn't working. I think I tried having 0.5. Well, anyway, I have a low level of the cell adhesion molecule. Oh, wait, I'm showing the wrong one. That's why. That is the one Pedro had that you just looked at. This is mine. Right. So I have 0.5 on the repel, which really is repel, and 0.1 on the adhesion molecule. And the idea is I have some, I hope this is it. No, it's going to be this one. Nope, not that one. This one. There we go. I have code where every step the predator looks at who it's connected to, prey or predator cells, and adjusts the density of its cell adhesion molecule accordingly. And when it detects that it's touching a prey cell, it increases. And I don't think I really have the details right, because it's not doing anything that interesting. And this one, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. This one unfolds kind of slowly, so I made a movie of it. And I can speed up that movie. So actually, let me just drag it until they're interacting pretty well. Okay. So now you see what what feel like they're sort of transient but more than random connection, where the red cells seem to associate with the yellow cells. But they don't really, I was trying to get them to do more than this. So yeah, you see that one there. This was kind of coded a little bit for a second there. So I don't think I have everything quite right. And it's a question of both the initial values in the XML and the algorithm, but I'm working towards getting this to work. So that's where I am.
All right, great. Thank you. We will start to circulate here shortly. Thank you, Sharon. James, let's go ahead and reopen the breakout rooms.
It's the only question, is Cesar back?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, do you want to tell us quickly what you've got?
Yes, let me share real quick. So can you see my screen? Can you hear me?
No, your feed, we can hear you, but your feed is frozen.
Okay. All right, just again. Now you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I've been on a kind of a side quest from the original project idea that I had. Here, what I wanted to implement is a model of, say, biofilm architecture in response to environmental, not environmental presence of some sort of molecule that could be either positive or negative for cells, and see how the cells would respond and would organize themselves into a biofilm-like structure. So here, essentially, what I have is two phenotypes. One is the green one is susceptible phenotype. So right now in the environment, what we would have is something like an antibiotic or some kind of molecule that is bad for the cells. And the blue one is resistant phenotype. So the blue one is has a better chance of or less of an aversion for the medium, let's say. So these ideally would be bacteria, but right now they're just modeled like cells. And what we've done so far is to get an initial configuration of randomly distributed cells in the medium, and they are moving around. Again, the green ones are susceptible to the medium, so they would try to avoid being in direct contact to the medium with the medium, and that's what generally it tends to happen. The edges are not periodic; they're just like stable. So that's actually something that is that helps resemble a surface where they can attach and form a biofilm. And yeah, that's exactly what is happening. The cells are the blue cells are engulfing, so to speak, or covering, protecting the susceptible phenotype. And right now, I'm a bit stuck with applying how's it named? Making cells move back and forth, as in reversal like type of movement, so that cells walk or move forward to some direction and then backwards randomly. I thought I had that figured out, but I think it's not working the way I thought it was. And yeah, and then after that, I need to do some, say, Levy flights where cells move randomly in like steadily in certain direction, and then they shift direction. But right now, I went back to the reversals because that I noticed that wasn't working the way I thought it was. So perhaps I will ask for help with that.
Again, one general point I'll make, which has come up a bunch of times, which is it's better to try to do things one at a time.
Yes.
So if you want to explore how forces work, change your simulation so you only create one cell and learn how to push on it. Don't put them in a cluster until you've learned how to control one cell movement. Same sort of thing with the liver model. It's not great to be able to do the whole big model at once. It's great to try. But when you're learning, especially, it's very difficult to understand the complexity of the interactions. And so if something doesn't work in a big model, you don't know where the problem is. And so it's really helpful to break the model down. So you've got the cells that you're aggregating the way you want. That's great. Now you want to learn how to push a cell. So instead of trying to add pushing to the cells while they're aggregated, go back to a simulation with one cell, apply a force and get it to move in a direction, reverse, and then change direction. So then you don't have to, then you know there's nothing else going on. Then you can take the code you wrote for that and put it into the more complicated model.
Right. Yeah.
Because otherwise it's quite difficult to know how these things are behaving. So if it's failing, you don't know where the failure is. And so that's not a criticism of what you're doing, but it's something that we tend to build. In the end, these models are very complicated. They have many, many components. And so it's nice to start out by building the components as much separately as possible so you understand each piece. So just as a principle, if you get stuck, don't be afraid of cutting out the parts you're interested in and working on that in more or less isolation.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, well, yes, Cesar, we'll get you some help on that by the end of the day. Okay, so thank you, everybody. I think we'll go ahead and re-open our breakout rooms now. And James, if you could join. Oh yeah, Marcella's still here.
Start out with Marcella if she's still here.
I'm still here.
Okay, I'll join you. I'll if it's okay, I'll talk to you first, and then I'll talk to the liver group next. Okay. Pedro, why don't you help Cesar, please?
Okay.
I did have a question. So for presentations, we're gonna have presentations later. Is there a format for that, right? Or for report? Is that what we're doing? Or how would that work?
Yeah, so we don't have to, presentations don't need to be super formal.
Okay.
Let me just, I had a quick slide I was going to show people, but I think it's more important actually that we just give people time to work on their projects today. I don't want to take people to be focusing too much on like building a PowerPoint, but the idea was just for the final presentations to go over a short overview of the biological background of your problem. And then just show us your model like you have been in these updates. Discuss some challenges you faced and how you overcame them to kind of share with the other groups, you know, some workarounds you may have found. Maybe how did your initial plans change? And then you'll summarize your plans for future work on the model. So what else still needs to be done and what help would you like from us post hackathon? Was kind of the idea. So again, don't spend a whole lot of time building a PowerPoint or anything. We'll just have you kind of, I think this year we'll just go through points 2, 3, and 4. For the most part.
Okay.
Because it'll take like half an hour to build that point 1 into a PowerPoint. And we prefer that you spend that time on the projects this year.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
What time is that going to be? Is it at 6?
Yes.
Maybe make it 6:30.
Yeah, we may
Okay.
push back to 6:30 depending on how people are
We're way behind on schedule.
working. If you're not going to be available much after 6 though, please let us know and we'll have you talk to us at 6 o'clock. Because we know that it's going to be getting late for people, especially on a Sunday with work tomorrow and everything.
So your slide said 5 to 6. Did it get pushed to 6? And now it's getting pushed to 6.
The schedule did say 5 to 6. Let's say 5:30.
Sorry.
5:30 is only an hour and a half from now. I don't know how realistic that'll be.
We'll talk about it on our end, Sharon, and we'll let people know.
Okay.
Because we need to figure out where people are and how long they're willing to stay.
Okay.